Willkommen in mein Volk. Welcome everyone. The channel is Esoteric Initiate. I'm Brad Koo. Today we're gonna dive into kind of some of the reasons that I'm on the path that I'm on, why I've chosen Asatru, why I follow philosophical things like theosophy and hermeticism. Um, it's not just some random decision. I kind of wanted to get it into my thinking on it. I want to let you guys know where my thought process was. So, without further ado, I want to discuss the reason I've chose to walk the path of Asatru and maintain a philosophic perspective that is a blend of Hermeticism, Gnostic, and various mystery religions and theosophy, which I suppose is redundant as theosophy encompasses the others. However, I felt that they deserve distinct recognition. I know, some purists will frown on my blended traditions, but I really have to insist that a sure sign that you're studying along a true and righteous path is finding mirrored concepts in the lore, symbology, and practices of other cultures. To make an example of the antithesis of such continuity, I find it highly suspicious that some faiths say that their God created the world and all its peoples, but inexplicably either kept himself and his teachings hidden from a portion of the population, or possibly even stranger, is said to have a favorite or chosen race of people. Explain how we're all God, how this infallible God's children, but he likes and favors some of our siblings a little more? He may not even talk to any people of a particular race at all. I mean, how long was it before the peoples of the Amazon even heard of Jesus? There's people living down there now that have never heard of Jesus or, monotheism at all. Now, call me crazy, but I think a spiritual path is supposed to guide you to answers, not more questions. And it shouldn't require mental gymnastics to maintain belief. My gods do not fall into the logical trap that the Abrahamic faiths have ensnared themselves into. The gods of the Germanic pantheon are not eternal, they are not without flaws, they do not claim to be all good and compassionate, nor do they have invested interest in interfering with human affairs on Midgard. Comparing that to the Abrahamic God, he by in his own definition is made into a logical paradox. Since it is a fact that evil acts are committed by evil people, that evil as an antithesis to godly goodness exists, means that God cannot be all good, all knowing, and all powerful. It's impossible. He can be a maximum of any two of the three, but he can't be all of them. He can be all good and all knowing, averse evil, but lack the power to stop it, or he can be all good and all powerful, but ignorant to certain things, or the final option is that his benevolence is fiction and he is not good at all. Given our situation on Earth, these are the only conclusions. Take your pick. Now, I cannot imagine subscribing to one of these religions whose doctrines are fundamentally at odds with the culmination of scientific knowledge. Taking any scripture from antiquity, with anonymous authors whose text is not written as a first-hand account, but instead as a third-hand account, usually of an oral tradition, not a third-hand account of an eyewitness report, taking a document under that premise as literal and historically and scientifically accurate, it just baffles me. Do all the religious texts of the world contain a wealth of knowledge? Yes, absolutely, unquestionable. But not if they haven't first been translated out of their allegorical form. Even given analogies, I feel like the Abrahamic religions don't match up to the heathen faiths in terms of accuracy of their lore. The German creation myth, for example, speaks of a world of ice, pure lifeless potential in the form of cold, inanimate matter, existing opposite of a world of fire, pure energy with no form to embody. It goes on to describe these two primal elements coming in contact in Ginnungagap, the Great Void, and birthing the universe in a burst of fire and ice, energy and matter. Separately they were nothing, but together it was everything. This bears a striking resemblance to the Big Bang Theory. I'm talking about the scientific theory, not the TV show. I think no matter how you look at it, no matter how it happened, The details of primal energy fusing with primal matter is the only way that the universe's genesis makes sense. Either that, or a genie like God floated around in pure nothingness for eons until one day, or 7 days rather, he decided that nothing existing was boring, and to blink everything into existence exactly the way we see it in modern times. No mention of human ancestors, dinosaurs, or the eons that the earth was uninhabitable. I mean, the list goes on and on. You decide what seems plausible. Similar in nature is the story of human evolution, or non existent evolution, dependent on your spiritual beliefs. The Abrahamic Three say that humans were created exactly as we are today and have not evolved or changed in any way. Now, science says that we evolved, as did every other species on Earth, from lower, lesser forms to more complex ones. Science backs this up with extensive evidence, including fossils and DNA evidence. I mean, Europeans and Asians exclusively have Neanderthal markers in their DNA. It says that this part of the population can have up to 4% Neanderthal DNA. This is a genetic trait not found in African or Aboriginal DNA. Germanic and Norse mythology says that mankind was given breath and spirit by Odin and his brothers, but nature played its part as well. But originally, humans were not as advanced as we are currently. In the saga of Rig, it is written that on 3 occasions a divine entity came to Midgard and gave mankind a little bit of the divine touch. Each time Rig or Heimdall visited, he found our human ancestors increasingly more advanced from the blessings bestowed on them from his previous visits. It describes humans going from barely more significant than the species they share the environment with, and just learning to use and build tools, to being kings over civilizations. Again, we have a perfect allegory of human evolution, and that allows for the existence of the fossil record and DNA research. The saga of Rig has a place for the scientific evidence that we possess and provides us the missing links in our evolutionary chain. It helps us understand why humans, among all evolving animals, have been blessed with deep consciousness and a moral compass. The universe and all within it make much more sense when you have a pantheon that are divine powers that are the result of the universe being created, rather than the reason it was created. It also gives me a closer feeling to my patrons, because I know that even though they're divine and powerful, we share an origin point. We are similar on some atomic level, and possibly divinity is an achievable goal through enlightenment. The bottom line is that for better or worse, I have a very scientific and logical mind. I break things apart all the time, and that's just what I do. I can't help it, it's my nature. I was raised a Catholic, but I was an atheist for years until I started researching the premise of energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred. That quote was what started to change my mind and have me looking at things from another way. This led to studies of near-death experiences and cell memory. When you consider the story that a young girl was murdered and then her heart was donated to another little girl, and then after the transplant, she started having nightmares of a murder taking place, and the extreme detail of those dreams solved the cold case in real life. It's hard to deny the existence of a soul or a spirit, cell memory, or that our consciousness exists outside of our brain. Then I started researching quantum theory, and I was confronted with a reality that consists of realms all around us, ethereal and spirit realms, that our tiny band of sense capabilities cannot perceive. Science is proving that the lore is true. It's proving that our ancestors were made privy to information that we are only now discovering. It is absolutely an insult to our ancestors to sit here in a bubble of modern superiority and think that they simply believed outrageous things, and whether true or falsehood, what they wrote down was a literal recollection of events. To believe this is to believe that Animal Farm is a book on agriculture.